Hello and welcome to our podcast. I'm Dani, and today Crate.com talks with Ashley Mitchell, the Resource Development Manager of Hamilton Foodshare. If you haven't heard of it, Hamilton Foodshare is the emergency food shipping and receiving hub and also an emergency food systems coordinator for a network of agencies in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Before we go, remember if you're new here to this podcast, press subscribe on YouTube or in your podcast app. Now, hi, Ashley, and welcome.
Hi, Danny. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for taking time and talking to us today. I'm eager to learn more about the context, the challenges that you're facing there in Hamilton. But before we move to this point, let's learn about your history. I always begin with this because I think it's really, really vital so we understand how things are shifting, right? Because, as time passes, things tend to move around. So, how and when did the food share begin its activities?
As you mentioned, we're the emergency food shipping and receiving hub. In 1988, there were six local food banks that came together to create this collective initiative to basically meet as a regular subcommittee through the city of Hamilton and discuss the challenges of the food banking world. But by 1990, basically Hamilton Food Share was born, and our founder and first executive director, Joanne Santucci, basically took this initiative with these six food banks and moved it from an office setting into a shipping and receiving type setting. So we moved into a warehouse. We came up to shipping and distribution standards for shipping and distributing food and then storing food. And when that happened in 1990, by 1992, we had 9 members. So we basically went from starting with just a couple of food banks in the city that were working together to creating an actual initiative that created this hub where we now have 16 member agencies, and those 16 member agencies operate 23 emergency food programs across the entire city of Hamilton.
Wow, it's been over 30 years, right? On this
Yes, over
on
30
this
years.
road. And
A
it's a
long
huge
time.
growth, I would say, because, coming from 9 people to having different hubs, different storage spaces, it must have been something. And that kind of makes me think, was this, I would not say need motivated, but has this sort of accompanied the evolution of food insecurity situations? If we could just talk about it a little so we can give our listeners a little bit of context. What is the situation in Hamilton right now involving food insecurity? And what would you say are the primary factors that are contributing to it right now?
We're definitely in a hunger crisis, not just here in Hamilton, but really across our entire province of Ontario and across all of Canada. Since last year, we have seen an increase of 40% for food bank visitors. So from last year to this year, we saw 40% increase in people needing to access food banks. But on top of that, what we also saw was 34% of all the people that accessed food banks last year were brand new to the emergency food network. So this tells us that not only is the hunger crisis growing, but it's intensifying because we're seeing even more people. The people that were already accessing food banks on a regular basis are still accessing food banks, but they're accessing it multiple times a month. And then people who had never needed a food bank before in their life are now needing to access our services across the city. All the different member agencies are really seeing everybody's pockets are being stretched thin, from the people needing to access the food banks right down to the actual food banks themselves. Like our resources are really being stretched because there's so many people in need.
I mentioned this to you before we start recording, right? That this is something that is quite shocking to me. I admit that. I think we don't often look around to see how things are really in a crisis and everywhere. And and I think this is reality, as you mentioned, that is kind of going global in a level, and it's
Mm-hmm.
quite concerning, right? But thinking about the actions that you were able to do exactly, and I think this bit of you being a hub, you being like a coordinator in this network, it must bring like an edge, a different vision to the kind of help that you can supply. So let's talk about it. How can you actually make effective change in these people's lives?
Well, if we're talking day to day, how are we making effective change. So basically what we do is we work with food industry partners, with community partners, with corporations. We bring large scale food resources into our distribution center, and then we distribute that to those 16 member agencies. Those member agencies are serving, there's 33,500 different household visits happening each month across the city of Hamilton. And as far as unique individuals go, that's over 17,500 people. And we know 35% of those people that are coming are children. So we're seeing a lot of children that are in need in our city. So what we do is we take those resources, we distribute it amongst our member agencies so that we can ensure that they have food resources available and non-food resources available for those that are coming out to access those emergency food programs. We also have some members that operate hot meals programs. So over 40,000 hot meals are being served each month to individuals that are accessing those meal programs as well. And then we work with the industry to develop those relationships to ensure that we're able to bring in food donations, make sure that we're able to bring in corporate financial donations so that we can continue to supply these resources, especially right now when everybody's dollars are being stretched and the shelves are unfortunately very bare.
Wow. You've mentioned this number and it's really astonishing, honestly. Like it's a way greater number than I would thought of. And that kind of leads me to a thought, honestly, that is, how can you actually facilitate, make your help available to people? How can you make sure that all of these people can get to you and that they will have, I would say, the chance, I don't know if that's the best word, but the possibility to get all the food that they need to have a nutritious life? Because this is also a second thing, because it's not just offering like, oh, here's a bread, here's something that simple. It's about making it healthy to people as well.
Mm-hmm.
Are you able to ensure this access?
So we actually provide, last year we provided over 70% of the food was fresh or frozen. So we do put a high priority on ensuring that the food that we're providing is nutritious. We also put a high priority on ensuring that it's accessible to all. So we recognize that different communities, different families are going to have different needs when it comes, culturally, religiously, medically, dietary needs. So we want to ensure that if someone needs to access emergency food, that the type of food that's being distributed there is not going to inhibit their ability to have nutritious food for their families. So we try to provide foods that are accessible for all. And as far as ensuring people can make it to us, obviously there's always demographic challenges depending on where someone's living. But with Hamilton Food Share, like I said, we have those 16 member agencies and they are spread across the entire city. So we say we're in every corner of the city, from our rural food banks to East Hamilton, West Hamilton, downtown. We have a bit of a mountain or an escarpment in Hamilton. So we have we have a emergency food program that we distribute to that's on the mountain. So we try to ensure that no matter where someone is living in Hamilton, we have a member agency in that corner that they're able to visit. However, anybody in the city of Hamilton is able to access any one of those programs if they need to.
Amazing. And thinking of this network, then I think the next obvious question is, how can you make all of this operate? I know you mentioned like local people acting, local partners and really being close to communities, but it must be a challenge. And if I can squeeze in another question in this, what other challenges do you face in the more organizational level?
Like here at Hamilton Food Share, well, we obviously, like you said, we have 16 member agencies, but we'd like to be able to have more, but we only have so many resources, right? So there are other programs within the city of Hamilton that are operating, a meal program, or there's smaller, I know there's food banks that are operating out of churches, things like that, but we only have so many resources, so we can only supply so much food to so many people. So in the long term, we would love to grow our program to be able to have more member agencies, to be able to support more programs across the city so that there are more options for people that are in need. And that's definitely a long-term goal of ours. Also to just make our distribution more efficient, make sure that we are, the supplies that we're bringing in, the resources we're bringing in are being efficiently, effectively distributed and always having an equitable approach top of mind.
I usually say this, I'm gonna make a pause just to tell people to go to your webpage, because in there they can get much, much more information than we're gonna be able to talk here today, unfortunately. But the page is hamiltonfoodshare.org.org. You can get all this information that we've been talking here. You can find ways to help. I'm gonna address that in the next questions, but it's a good way to have a better understanding of all of the situation that we are talking here today. Actually, trying to look at it, moving from the challenges and thinking of a more positive tone now. And since you mentioned also the possibility and the desire to make more efficient distribution, right? What would you say that are uh, the next goals, the next steps for Hamilton Food Share on a long-term vision for next years?
Our long-term goal would be that we were all without a job. So if we were without a job, then we've done our job and we've solved food insecurity, but we recognize that that's not going to be likely in our near future. So the next thing that we realize is that we are part of the housing crisis, in the sense that we're supporting people to allow them to remain housed. People used to think that food banks were just a Band-Aid solution and that we weren't really getting to the root causes. So we really want to focus on how can we work with our partners, with we're a member of Feed Ontario and an affiliate member of Food Banks Canada. How can we support them with their advocacy for policy change, for adequate housing, for affordable housing, for better employment and improved employment laws and opportunities, better social assistance programs to ensure that people are able to be housed and therefore also have the employment opportunities to be able to purchase those groceries. Because right now, we are providing a service that is allowing many people to remain housed. We did a survey in 2021 with McMaster University where they looked at the relationship between hunger and homelessness. And we found that 46% of our service users that were surveyed said they would be houseless if they were not able to access the services of food. So, and then we asked them, where are you redirecting the funding that you're able to save by having food, distributed to you through a food bank? And almost all of it went to rent, utilities, transportation costs, 96%. So this is money that they're taking, we're basically able to put back in their hands so that they can just keep a roof over their head. So long-term goals, we really want to work with our different partners to ensure that we can have better housing options, affordable housing, affordable rent, adequate employment. And then here at Hamilton Food Share, like I said, we really want to be able to expand our distribution and who the members are working with so that we can reach even more families here in Hamilton.
I'm really happy and glad that you brought this information to us, because it's something that we forget how much hand in hand goes, like food insecurity to house insecurity and all of other things that we have to pay on the end of the month. So thanks for bringing this insight to us. And again, it's good to see that this is the approach that you are taking on now, because it might not be able to sort the food insecurity issue just now, but maybe if we tackle it from different perspectives and think of it in different angles, we might actually get a stronger, let's say, more sustainable results in the future. So it's really important to see that way. Thank you for this. And Ashley, just so we understand and give this to our listeners as well, because people with us right now might want to get involved with the work that you are doing there. So what would be the best ways to help you keep going? Would it be volunteering, maybe donating money, donating food? What kind of donations do you accept? I think this is also important to clarify to people. How would that all work?
So I guess what kind of donations we accept would depend on the donor that it's coming from. So we work with, grocery stores, farmers, food industry partners, so manufacturers, distributors, retailers. So our grocery store partners, our food industry partners, we're able to accept fresh, frozen donations of surplus or for manufacturers or grocery stores near expiry. We don't distribute expired food, but if it's coming close to expiry and they're pulling it, then we'll take it and distribute it right away. If it's coming from a community member, someone in our community, whether that's an individual, a family, a church group, an organization, a business, we work with them to do food drives. We've had many businesses come in and volunteer. But so as far as what we accept for food, if it's that community food drive, then it's non-perishable. That's the way we accept food, and that's really the easiest way for people to organize a food drive because they have to be able to store it while they're collecting it before they bring it in. So non-perishable is the safest route to go. And then what ends up happening often is people will do a food drive and then they're more interested, so then they want to volunteer. So then they'll come in and they'll get to see, how the food goes from a food drive into our warehouse and then how we pack it to be distributed. So it's kind of a full circle example of what their impact is doing. And then obviously, like you said, financial donations are so important in order for us to operate our food acquisition and distribution program and ensure that we're able to distribute. I don't think we mentioned yet, but we distribute nearly 4 million pounds of food per year out of our warehouse. So in order to keep that quantity up and be able to distribute to all those emergency food programs, there is a financial aspect to it. So financial donations always help with our operations. We also do food purchasing. So last year, 67% of the food that we distributed came from food industry, but 29% of it was from food purchases to ensure that when food donations are down, we had staple priority items that way we knew that those specific items would be on the shelves, would be available at our emergency food programs, no matter what donations were coming in. And actually only 4% of the food that came in last year was community food drives. So we're always looking to work with our community, and we're here to make your food drive as successful as possible. We'll provide you with supplies. We'll help you with your promotion. We'll create posters that you can distribute. We'll share everything on our social media channels. We'll come out to your food drive if you request it. So if you're successful, then we're successful. And so that's what we're here to do.
I love that motto. And I think makes total sense. Thank you so much, Ashley, for joining us today. This was a great conversation.
Thank you, Danny. I appreciate you having us.
It was a pleasure. And for everyone watching or listening to us right now, thank you so much for staying with us again. I hope you enjoyed. And if you did, remember, press subscribe on YouTube or in your podcast app. Share this episode with your friends, with your family. Help us to spread the word about the importance of the Hamilton Food Share. We're going to take and put the link of their page on the description of this episode, and then you can access, get in touch, donate, get involved, and learn more about this important cause. All right, guys? So bye, and I'll see you in the next episode.
Bye.